Ladies, gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Please be advised that this movie has no nudity.
I'm out.
Come on, Eddie. Let's go to the movies.
Yeah.
I just have to wee-wee.
And we're back.
Just like the Five Musketeers.
What the hell am I looking at?
A country where culture means pornography and slasher films.
If you had these boobs, you'd be obsessed with them too.
Very exciting, big event. Everybody's excited, huh?
Last time I went to the pictures, I was looking at all the jiglins. And...
We hope you'll make this a weekly visit. Bring the family. Bring your friends.
You know, Roman should do horror comedies.
What?
I think that would be a really good idea for Roman.
What? No, you don't tell me what to do. You know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to do horror comedies. There. I'm my own person.
My own.
Yeah, I'm big boy. I put my big boy pants on. I go pee-pee by myself.
I'm big boy.
I hope you're
I am
this.
big boy.
I'm Bob's big boy.
I'm better than average boy. Ladies and gentlemen, listening land, welcome to Cinemadness, the podcast. We are the trio of cinematic experiences.
Ooh,
and
that was tough.
Oh yeah, I was trying to think of a rhyme with trio, but yeah, unfortunately there's nothing that makes me sound cool.
We are the trio of chorizo.
As an Hispanic man, I'm offended by that somehow, some way.
Oh, yeah, you don't like the spicy sausage?
I think it's pronounced chorizo.
Chorizo.
Anyways, so you're listening to Sausage Podcast, replacing Cinemadness Podcast. I'm sure there's a demographic for that. But I am going to be one of your three wonderfully talented hosts, so we've been told by our parents over and over again. I am Roman. I am joined here by the beautiful and wonderful Allison.
Hello.
Hello, Allison.
Hello.
And the equally beautiful and wonderful, so I've been told to tell people, Adam.
I want my cake.
Layers, donkey, layers.
Cake.
So today, we would like to introduce you guys to a concept because it is October. It is the month of horror.
Is it October?
It is October.
Or is it Carpentober?
Or is it Carpentober?
It started already.
Yeah, on YouTube. We're going to talk more about that soon.
I'm just taking over. This is
pretty much.
Cinemadness is mine!
So what we're going to be talking about today is actually horror comedies, or as I get the eye rolls when I say horror-dies.
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 Horror-coms.
You know, horror-dies sounds like it should be like a competitor for Hardee's. It's like, come to Horror-dies. You can have a bloody sausage.
Ooh.
Arby's has some of the best commercials. They're my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a new one.
They have the meats.
They have this new prime rib type sandwich to rival the McRib. And the guy who does the commercials has this really deep voice, but he's just like talking about the sandwich. He's like, all the prime rib and a bun. And then he goes, Chef Smooch, like instead
Chef
of like
Smooch.
doing it.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's Kevin Michael Richardson who does a lot of the deep voices on cartoons and stuff.
I'm just curious if James Earl Jones like has him on his hit list.
And
like,
Morgan Freeman.
You're going down. This is CNN.
Out of all the things, this is CNN.
Exactly. I could have went Darth Vader.
From the 80s. He hasn't done that since the 80s, but yeah, that's fine. That's good.
I could have gone like, Sandlot. We could have gone Field of Dreams. We could have gone
Meteor Man.
Coming to America. My Son Works. Anyways.
Could have done Lion King.
You could have done Lion King. But you know one thing that James Earl Jones hasn't done is
horror-dies.
He hasn't done a horror-die. He really hasn't
done a horror-die.
He would have been great back in the day. Although
now Tony Todd has done horror-dies.
So Tony Todd is...
He was Candyman.
That's what I thought.
Another deep voice. Dark man.
No, he's not typecasted at all. No.
He loves his job though.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. He is a wonderful person. He seems like
He's a great guy. We hang out all the time.
Oh yeah, me and Tony Todd. I didn't know who that was by name until you told me. But
we go way back.
Oh man, we totally go way back. But so we're going to be talking about horror comedies now. For those of you who are familiar with the podcast, we've actually took time, 2 years ago, to actually go through different sections of horror. We did a zombie one. We did
Friday the 13th.
We did Friday the 13th, which I still have my cutoff jean shorts that I wear just for awkward looks around my neighborhood.
We used to be known as that podcast that talks about movies, but basically is just 80s horror.
Oh yeah. And today's no different, evidently. No,
lot of. That's a sound.
Did
a lot of horror
it?
comedies in the 80s.
Yeah, a lot of horror comedies in the 80s, but the 90s has a good revival.
It does, like a tent.
And of course in the 2000s there's also a nice little
chunk
pitch of a
Chunk?
pinch. A
Like
pinch
from the
of
Goonies?
Yes, doing the truffle shuffle.
Oh yes,
It's not a horror comedy.
For a slasher.
No.
I just
Freddy's like, do it.
Come on!
Hey, Chunk, do the truffle shuffle.
Oh boy. We'll just have Chuck do the truffle shuffle and random horror movies. I think that could just be great.
Nightmare on the Goondocks.
Oh man.
Are you listening, New Line Cinema?
Hey you guys. Rocky Road. So unfortunately Goonies is not a horror-y, believe it or not.
Not even close.
No, it's kind of more of an adventure-y.
An adventure-y.
Yeah, where it's, a wonderful adventure film, but
it's a Spielberg, rest in peace, Richard Donner movie.
Okay. So we're going to have Geektoids, a nice little segment that we're going to introduce literally just now that I didn't clear with these guys. So what is a Geektoid? It's a fact for geeks.
Ooh.
Oh, so it's everything that I talk about.
Yes.
A geek toy.
Geektoids. Yes, I'm going to completely steal from Where in the World is Carmen San Diego? Geektoids. So Geektoids, what a Geektoid is, it's basically facts that you can zone out, kind of like my wife when I'm saying, hey, hon, did you know that the guy who's in this film is Tony Todd? We're friends.
Geektoid sounds like something you need to transform.
Geektoid?
It sounds like a toy that you need to transform.
Okay. So here's
Geektoiders.
Here's some Geektoids. When we break down what exactly the horror comedy genre is and where did it start, you can go way, way back. You can even point to funny parts in Shakespeare, in Greek tragedies, in Greek theater, in just classic theater in itself, because comedy is used in such a way to basically decompress a scene. Whether or not it's after you just saw a bunch of Scottish people being murdered on stage, then you have a drunk gatekeeper doing a monologue, circa Macbeth. Yep, I went there. You're welcome, people. And
the Scottish play.
Of course. And it touches on in Edgar Allan Poe's stories. You have little brief snippets of comedy where misdirection, where in The Raven, you have moments where he thinks it's something and it's not, and he kind of laughs at himself and pokes fun of himself. So we see that continually in literature, and eventually does make its way to the screen. In 1911, we have silent films that are playing with the idea of comedy horror.
Now, has there ever been a character in any type of film or maybe series called Misdirection?
James Bond, I'm looking at you. That just seems like a very James Bondian thing. It's like, misdirection. Well, misdirection.
Well, I'm here with misdirection.
Well, I hear that Misdirection's father was in the army. Major Direction.
Oh, I was going to say misdirection.
No, Major Direction.
Misdirection.
If I had a nickel for every time I had a misdirection.
I'm getting confused.
Well, a Major Erection was eventually promoted to General Erection. Yeah.
Which happens every 4 years.
And then Colonel.
The General Erection.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Why did it get Asian?
What? No, I got Scottish from that.
Asian.
All right. So as we continue on our Geektoids, the genre of horror comedies really didn't reach any sort of semblance, at least in terms of film history, until you really saw Abbott and Costello lampooning some classic horror monsters such as Frankenstein, The Mummy,
Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde. Now, Allison, I know you're a real big classic movie buff.
She loves black and white movies.
Absolutely, right? Okay, so
Didn't Abbott and Costello do Who's on First?
yes,
Okay, I know
Third
that.
base.
I know all about that.
yes. Oh,
Abbott and Costello meets series are some of the best of the Universal monster movies past the originals.
I agree with you. And let's just real quick, without boring Allison too much.
Oh, I'm not bored.
Well, so one of the reasons, you don't know them. So one of the reasons why you should watch it.
You don't know
I
him.
don't know them. You don't know me.
Yes.
I'm out of here.
Oh. As she walks out the door,
I
she
don't-
slaps it.
I don't
She
sound like
clicks out of my carpeted room.
Ah.
that. Yes, Abbott and Costello.
So
Meats.
with Abbott and Costello, basically what it does is Abbott and Costello, for those of you who do not know,
Abbott and Costello.
Costello, yes, Abbott and Costello. So Abbott and Costello. Boy,
Oh, man.
Oh, well, this is going to be a long episode, folks.
Costello.
Costello.
There you go. AC.
There you go.
Just say AC.
Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and the other guy.
Exactly. Abbott. So they're basically doing their vaudevillian type of comedy that you might be familiar, of course, with the Who's on First bit. It's that type of quick, repetitive jokes that goes over and over. Whereas when they have the classic monster movie, it's pretty much straightforward. So if you take out Abbott Costello, it's still a Frankenstein film.
Yes.
Where he's stomping through and, the classic tropes of Frankenstein. Same thing with the Mummy. Same thing with Jekyll and Hyde. Except Jekyll and Hyde is running political office. Hi-yo!
So it's kind of like the Scooby-Doo episodes where they threw in the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Frankenstein.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to put that in there because that's too on the nose. But,
But yeah, the
they're
comic
just
relief
there.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except it's in black and white, so.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a gold standard for years of your horror comedies. And you saw little spins off here and there, basically B and C listers doing kind of sort of the Abbott Costello things that really didn't make too much of a big splash in terms of cinematic history. So as we continue on, then you had the 50s. So basically that was
The Roaring 50s.
So that was
Roaring
it.
50s.
That was it for decades.
Yeah, for the most part. So in
the 30s and 40s were mostly the Universal stuff until the atomic age basically came around.
When the kids of that generation wanted something to laugh at, and then you started getting much more bold parodies, not just in horror films, but just in general. Stanley Kubrick, thank you very much. George C. Scott, the name literally...
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove is a great parody. It's not horror.
No, it's a satire.
Yeah, but you have that type of thing. So you have, in the 50s, you have a little bit more kind of cheeky beach type films where you have a monster showing up and then they have, almost like Scooby-Doo, a dance moment where the monster is doing a nice little beach jig, if you will, and you kind of are standing there watching, or sitting there watching, or standing.
You could stand in a movie and watch a movie.
You could.
If your back hurts.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite of those movies is Horror of Party Beach. And it's this monster that comes from the sea, and it looks like he has hot dogs coming out of his mouth.
That's basically what I was paraphrasing. I just could not remember it, and seeing that I can't say Abbott and Costello today...
Horror of Party Beach. That's what you're going to say.
Horror of Party Beach.
Horror or horror?
Horror.
Horror of Party Beach.
Yes, it is an MST3K episode.
That's a really dumb name. It should be The Horror of
So
Party
for
Beach.
those of
or
you
probably is
or
the
Horror on Party Beach.
No, it's of the...
Oof. The problem with horror on Party Beach is the crabs get everywhere.
Black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
What?
I was doing Jaws. I don't know why. You know, that's my favorite horror comedy is Jaws.
And the horrors were just floating in there.
That's when the horrors show
up. One by one, my sailors went down. The horrors just took them.
They took them.
And it was just me standing in the sea. No one wanted me. I was a lonely seaman. The horrors didn't want me.
That was horrid.
That's a low count.
Oh, what?
Wow.
Well, maybe it was standing too close to like radiation.
There you go. It was the atomic age of the 50s.
It was the atomic age of the 50s, yes. So, as we continue this journey on, the 60s had just campy horror type.
60s had hammer horror.
The
Geektoids, the info maker.
So as we go on the 70s, you saw basically a revival of just straight up horror.
The 70s got some gritty ass horror movies, I'll tell you.
Well, and that's where I want to take a pause, because what you notice in horror films, and especially when the slasher films, Alice start to come through, which we've covered. But the 70s, with the height of the slasher films coming out, it had comedic moments in the slasher films. It wasn't a comedy, but it was a comedic moment where, as we alluded to earlier, where it was decompressing the gore and decompressing the problems that the main characters were facing, like the aforementioned Macbeth, where we just saw a bunch of people get slaughtered, and now a drunk gatekeeper is having a monologue, which, for the record, one of my favorite monologues, just in case it's ever on Jeopardy. So...
Well, yeah, that's one thing, is bringing levity into something so harsh of a movie, like a slasher movie or like a Texas Chainsaw. You have to have that, or you're going to lose your audience. Mm-hmm. You have to have a perfect balance of levity mixed with the terror, or it's just going to be too much for anyone, or not enough.
For those of you out there listening to us going, well, what the hell are you talking about? The cat scare, where it's like, Mittens, meow. Oh, you frightened me. What are you doing here?
Oh, Mittens.
Exactly.
That darn cat.
That darn cat.
Oh, that was Dean, what's his name, right?
Yes.
That was a Disney movie. The guy from Herbie. Never mind.
Yes.
Keep going.
So, as we take a quick pit stop in the 70s, we get to the real fun stuff of horror comedies, and that's the 80s. So the kids that grew up watching...
The roaring 80s.
The roaring 80s. The kids that grew up on the Atomic Beach films basically got cameras, and then they did one better.
That's right, the Gen X generation of movies.
Yeah, so it really launched off the... In terms of parodies, there's a very interesting parody, which I don't believe Allison watched, but Adam was prepping for... Saturday the 14th.
Such a horrible movie.
It's a absolutely horrible movie. Did you actually watch the trailer that I posted?
No, I did
not. No,
not.
you did not. Okay, that's no problem. So Saturday the 14th is basically...
I have notes on Saturday the 14th.
It's the precursor to Dracula Dead and Loving It, which I personally do not like that film in multiple ways, which is, again, a horror-y, but it's a spoof horror-y, which is a subgenre of subgenre. Fun stuff. We're just going down this well here.
Was that the one with Leslie Nielsen?
Yes,
okay.
It is the one with Leslie Nielsen.
So this is a prequel to that?
No.
No.
In the style of it.
Oh, got it. Okay.
In terms of just...
I would not like that then.
It's a really weird movie because it's got really dark elements, but at the same time it's silly as hell.
Referring to Dracula Dead and Loving It?
No, Saturday the 14th.
Yeah, it really is. It's in many ways kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show without the singing or the transgender.
And with Jeffrey Tambor.
And with Jeffrey Tambor.
I'm glad I didn't watch it.
And it does include a Nightmare on Elm Street monster bathtub scene.
Yes.
But instead of a claw, it's a fin in between the legs.
Wow.
And then it turns into something kind of rapey because the monster chases after the teenage girl, and she's like...
In the bathtub?
Well, she gets out of the bathtub,
and he comes out.
Puts
of the
on a
bathtub.
towel, and he just tackles her, and he's just on top of her the whole time, and she's underage, and it's really kind of uncomfortable to watch if you think about it these days.
He just wanted her to bring a towel.
Speaking of comfortable watch, that leads us to another very big film. Of course, we're talking about Captain Supermarket. If you were
Captain Supermarket didn't happen until the 90s. We're still in the 80s.
No. But we're talking about the Evil Dead.
The Evil Dead 2. The Evil Dead was a straight up horror movie. It was.
With campy moments, though,
but
man.
the camp was there because they couldn't afford any other way.
You're correct.
Evil Dead 2 really punched in the horror or the comedy.
Now, the reason why I had the segue, because we have, of course, in Evil Dead, the tree rape.
Yes. Which also happened in part 2.
Yeah.
Not as graphic, but...
So we're really off. We're rolling on great kindness.
But
here.
I don't call that comedy. I don't think they put that in to be funny at all. That is a very disturbing scene.
Well, it was just connected to the rapey thing. From
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
got it.
I'm just trying to find a way to.
We're not saying rape is funny.
No.
No.
We're not talking about Evil Dead as a comedy horror.
In terms of some of the ways that it was shot, now definitely Evil Dead 2, it completely elevates it, and then we get Army of Darkness and just Sam Raimi itself, the things that he's done throughout his career. In 1987, he had an interesting interview where he talked about how in line horror and comedy is, where it's a setup and then a payoff. Whether it's tension or whether it's having a very funny way of putting things. And Sam Raimi, and I am going to give it to Adam to just go off in a second as we take this little quick tour of comedy horror comedies, horrorities. Exactly. He really did change the way we look at horror in general. That really set up a lot of films after that, such as Dusk Till Dawn, and other ways that I feel that there's some obvious homages to that. But as we continue down the 80s rabbit hole, we're going to move forward a little bit. So you have some interesting sequels that basically said fuck it and just kind of went for camp, such as Sleepaway Camp.
Ha!
Yeah, Sleepaway Camp 2. Sleepaway Camp 2 specifically.
Yeah, the first Sleepaway Camp, again, like the first Evil Dead, was flat out horror.
That was, and that's why specifically I say the sequel.
Yeah.
Also, Slumber Party Massacre 2.
Yeah.
It completely just went away from any serious vibes that it had in the first one, where you had a stalker stalking on teenage girls who had slumber parties, which, this was pre-apps. So how he knew that was amazing, first and foremost. So
is it safe to say, because I haven't seen Slumber Party Massacre 2.
Oh, my goodness.
And I haven't seen
good stuff.
Sleepaway Camp 2. Because I didn't like the first ones. Or what? Sleepaway Camp 2.
Yeah.
You didn't like the first Sleepaway Camp?
That was the one where the little boy was actually the girl, and the girl... Dude, it was just a little much for me.
It was like Pretty Baby, but with gore.
Yeah, it was okay.
It was like Little Darlings, but with gore.
Yeah. Oh, I love Little Darlings. Oh. Anyways, so do we think that they are like, okay, let's put out a second one, but let's make it all campy to what? To try and bring another form of the audience in there that thought that the first was too much?
What were you saying about Gremlins 2?
I love Gremlins 2.
Yeah, but it's the same
but
answer.
That's the same thing.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the defense rests.
Slumber Party Massacre 2 was made. It was directed by a woman who wanted to show that even with a woman director, they can make a viable slasher movie, but at the same time have female characters that were real, and make the male killer with his phallic driller killer guitar
drill,
this ridiculous character.
Slight relation to the original killer.
Yeah, just because of the drill.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it.
It had what's her name in it from Wings, Crystal.
Yeah.
I can't remember her last name.
I know who you're talking about.
Now starring, what's her name from Wings?
Crystal
from Wings.
Crystal something.
It's a really good movie. It's a really good movie. The acting and everything about it is good. The lighting's fantastic. There's not a lot of nudity. There doesn't need to be, even though it's called Slumber Party Massacre. There's like one scene.
Are you switching Slumber Party Massacre
Two.
first one?
No.
Okay, you think Slumber Party? I love Slumber Party Massacre 2. For the record, it's my favorite slasher movie of all time.
That's weird
because it's so campy and cheesy and just hilarious.
Right, and they made it that way to basically make the driller killer a ridiculous male character. And it worked.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. But that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, why do all of these sequels of these movies decide to not make it pure horror and try to add comedic relief to it? Is it because they want to bring other audiences in that thought the first one was too scary, make it more commercial?
They want to bring in the teenage boys. That's what they want. And they want to see gore, boobs, and they want to laugh.
Yeah.
So they just ramp it up every time. Look at the Friday the 13th thing. The kills get more ramped up.
Right.
The nudity gets ramped up.
So you mean tweens ruin something other than vampire books? Yeah, you're welcome. Twilight. No.
And I think that's
you don't have to read them though. You don't.
I think that's why I never gravitated towards them. Like, I'm not a huge campy.
Wait, you're not a teenage boy?
Oh my God, no, I'm not a teenage boy. But like,
Adam, you owe me $10.
I'm not a campy person. I don't like camp. I don't like over the crazy gore.
I hate the outdoors.
Don't watch Thor Ragnarok.
I hate the outdoors.
What are you talking about outdoors?
Because you said you didn't like camp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't like. I know I say campy. Like Evil Dead 2, I would rather sit down and watch Evil Dead, hands down. I just don't like a lot of that over the top, blood everywhere, over the top, just campy. Like, get out of here! This is ridiculous. And we'll get into more of that in the 90s and the 2000s, where it toned down a little bit, and I can stand a little bit of it. But that's why a lot of these movies I don't have any interest watching, because it's just not my thing. I just find it silly.
I love trash horror.
I know you do.
I love trash. I mean, I'll sit down and watch, Hereditary and Midsommar and The Lighthouse and just absolutely love those movies for the cinematic excellence of those movies.
art.
And then the next minute I'm watching street trash or chud and enjoying myself even more.
Right. Because you like all horror.
Yes.
All genres of horror. Not everybody does.
I know, yeah.
So that's why, totally getting off the subject, but that's why
We don't have a subject.
But that's why I wasn't completely sold on Malignant up at the end.
Oh, because it's Italian horror.
It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I can fully respect what everybody's doing in the movies, but it's not my type of horror that I like. So when you guys are talking about a lot of these, I never gravitated towards those.
So if we were to make an app on horror, you would probably swipe left. It's like, oh no, it speaks Italian. No. So as we continue on, now we're going to be focusing mainly in the American markets, because I know for some of you who are in the foreign markets, you're probably screaming, it's like, Japanese has great horror comedies. Absolutely.
Japanese
no doubt.
gore horror is the best. But so is Italian giallo.
Yeah, and the
Jell-O.
Brits the Brits have it covered too. There are some gold standards that we're going to get into as we go to the 2000s.
We are just getting started. I'm excited.
Oh yes. So as we talk about campy, cheesy sequels, you have to start bringing in stuff like when Nightmare on Elm Street starts getting cheesy, where Freddy Krueger starts to have the puns regularly. Now,
which was about part 4. About then, yeah.
3, he kind of starts it.
3, he was still kind of dark, but I mean, welcome to primetime, bitch. I mean, that's the best line in the whole series. But 4 is when he had the sunglasses and he had the shark
jaws,
hand. And,
same thing.
And he said, "How sweet fresh meat."
I love dark meat.
I mean, that was Rennie Harlan, and Rennie Harlan is a fantastic director. So, I mean, in the way of that kind of movie, he went on to do Die Hard 2 and A lot of twos.
You notice a trend?
Oh, he did The Last Kiss Goodnight with
Yes, with Sam
his
Jackson.
wife and his wife Gina Davis.
And Cutthroat Island.
Maybe that's what I was thinking. Cutthroat Island. Yeah. Anyways.
Underrated pirate film. Fun. It was fun. I don't understand why people crapped on it.
I don't know.
Speaking of twos, crapping.
Question.
Answer.
So
Go.
Okay, so you're saying that Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and as it went on, you're saying now he started doing puns and acting kind of silly and comedic relief or whatever. I still don't take Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5 and 6 and, you know, New Nightmare and all that as a horror comedy. It's still in my mind as a horror movie.
Well,
No,
New
New
Nightmare
Nightmare,
is
no.
horror.
No, New
Okay,
Nightmare
so I'll
is
get rid of New Nightmare.
fantastic.
4, 5, 6, whatever.
And Freddy's Dead. Yeah, that
I
was...
still don't
Yeah.
count that as a
The
horror
sign says
comedy.
we're fucked.
Even Freddy versus Jason, that was garbage, and they had a lot of back and forth stupid humor. But in my mind, it's still not a comedy horror because they
It's not.
set out to be okay. So I just wanted to clarify that yes, a horror movie can have funny aspects to it based on their character. Like Jason doesn't talk, so he's not funny. He's funny in Michael Myers. Like he's not really funny, right?
No, but the characters that support the film
Yeah.
that push the
Sure, I get that, like the
funny.
jocks and the stupid people. But in my mind, that still doesn't make it a comedy horror.
It makes it campy,
Well, no,
which starts to slip down that very slippery slope
Yeah.
to being a horror-y
Yeah.
or horror comedy.
Now, when you get into franchises, the of Chucky movies are horror comedies.
Not the first one.
Bride of Chucky.
Oh, okay,
he
okay,
said
No,
yeah.
the of
Okay,
Chucky.
Sorry, I
Bride of
apologize.
Chucky, Seed,
Yeah.
Cult. Those are all meant to be horror comedies, and they're directed by the guy who did Freddy vs. Jason.
Which Freddy vs. Jason I really enjoyed.
He's a Japanese fella,
Okay.
and he actually turned down Freddy vs. Jason because he didn't have any connection to the characters whatsoever. And New Line is like, that's what we need. We want someone.
Right.
We want someone to bring new life into these
And
characters.
that's exactly what they made.
Yeah.
They made somebody who is completely not like any of the other movies.
And it worked.
Yeah. Hey, ladies, you want to go to the light show? I love that line.
Oh, that's the pinball one. I say it all the time, and I cannot stand it. Tilt. Oh my god, it's so horrible. That movie is so horrible.
What was it? That goalie is really pissed off.
Yeah. So
The
bad.
fake Jay character.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
And another geektoid about Freddy vs.
Geektoid?
Jason. On the, I think I've said this before too, on the documentary Never Sleep Again, the
4-hour documentary.
the documentary
Totally worth
of Nightmare on Elm Street, yeah. They start talking about the unofficial Jay and Silent Bob Jay character from Freddy vs. Jason, and then they do an interview with Jason Mewes, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know why they called me for this thing, and it was a weird movie to do." And he's like, "Wait a minute, that wasn't me. I'm out of here." It was so cool that they got him to do that.
That's funny.
What? He doesn't take himself seriously? No. Anyways, so as we continue on our journey, we're still in the 80s, but now we're starting to creep into the 90s, and you kind of see some funny type films, like Wes Craven is starting to have a little bit more humor in some of his films. Shocker.
Oh, Shocker was great.
Yeah,
such a terrible movie, but it's so great.
Yeah, Shocker is a story of a man who's about to be electrocuted, and he basically, through a plot point that I don't remember exactly at this current juncture,
he was a Satanist, and
yeah.
it saved him from the electric chair.
Yeah, and he's caught up, and he goes into television, basically, and he goes through lines of electricity. So the finale of the film, spoiler alert, he is in TV, and he and
the 30-year-old movie. There's
he and the protagonist of the film fight in the television. So they're through like black and white, they're through other areas, and they continue their fight, and it's very interesting. But you can even see by me paraphrasing how it's a comedic horror.
And the main character, the Shocker character, he is always laughing. He's always having a good time. Even when he's getting electrocuted, he's like, "Ha ha ha! This is great!" and then he survived. But yeah, it's a very campy, as you say. As you coined the term, you've created this term, campy.
What?
No, he's got. It's a very campy movie. It doesn't take itself seriously. It doesn't take itself Wes Craven seriously, and that's kind of that's how he was in the early '90s. You had Shocker, you had The People Under the Stairs, which was more serious than Shocker, but it did have its lighter moments.
Yeah, and I know I'm bypassing a lot of like kind of fun, campy horror films.
We're gonna go a deep dive. This is just the beginning. This is just the
tour.
This is just the timeline we're
Yay!
going through.
Yes. So
Allison's like, "Are we done yet?
Is this episode done?"
I didn't sign up for this.
She suddenly smokes cigarettes because we're causing her. She didn't smoke before this episode, but by George, she has 2 packs of Marlboros.
By George.
By George, she's doing it.
Stop it.
You think she has a sexy voice now? Wait till she has a couple packs.
I'm going to start talking like Marge's sisters.
Ah, great.
My favorite movies are the Scream pictures.
The picture shows.
She changes into my voice from the intro. All the Jiglins and Jocelyn's.
Oh boy, the Ghibli bits. So as we continue in the 90s, we touched on briefly, sadly, of course, the Mel Brooks second addition to the Horror-y series. His first one was this small film that no one ever talks about called Young Frankenstein.
Oh.
Which is my mom's favorite movie of all time.
Wow.
I can see why. It is so fun. And
it holds up still every moment.
Not all Mel Brooks movies do. However, that one can.
Does.
Can and will.
Does, will.
I love Dig Dug.
Oh, Dig Dug's an underrated Atari game. Yeah, it's about a guy who digs.
But yeah, the 90s are when the spoofs really got big. You brought up Dracula Dead and Loving It. Oh, you haven't yet, but you were on your way.
No, he did with Leslie Nielsen.
I mean, right now he was on his way. We detoured with Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, that movie. Oof.
It grew on me. Like now, in my 40s, I kind of dig it because I gave up on thinking of Mel Brooks as a comedic genius in his later years, because even Robin Hood had its problems. It was formulaic. His spoofs were formulaic after Spaceballs. But Dracula Dead and Loving It had some really good stuff in it. But while watching Transylvania Twist, a movie that I want to talk about later, there is a scene, and this was 1988. Transylvania Twist was. There was a scene where Van Helsing stakes a vampire in its coffin, and it bleeds and bleeds and bleeds and bleeds and bleeds, and he's like, "Oh, he just ate." And I'm like, "Oh, Mel Brooks just stole that in the 90s." Because that was a joke in Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Who knows? How do you know he didn't pitch that joke to him and he got pissed off?
I don't think he had anything to do with Roger Corman.
No, and that's another guy that we completely glance over is Roger Corman's style, because you're talking in the 60s. He really did make that cheese, but it wasn't horror movies, horror comedy as much as it was just campy and cheesy.
Yeah, if there was a movie Roger Corman started out doing exploitation films. He did a lot of the women in prison movies. And he did a lot of the 1950s style monster movies, and that's where he got into the cheese. And if it could be cheap, Roger Corman will do it. And I could do a whole episode on Corman. He was amazing.
See the Fantastic Four.
Going.
See the Fantastic Four,
which is not an official movie, so you can't. You have to look it up on YouTube or get it pirated. But there is a documentary about making that movie.
That's official.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. So
a lot of geektoids coming from my mouth.
So as we continue on, then in 96, there's this little film that not many people knew of. Man, that changed everything. So now you have people literally prank calling you, thank you to this film, and say, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And that's all because of this little
film. Is that how they sounded?
Shaggy?
Yeah, that's how they called me. It's like, hey, what's your favorite scary movie?
So Patrick Warburton was your friend calling you.
Pretty much.
Hey, What's your favorite scary movie?
Hello, Roman.
Wow,
Hello, Roman. Hello, Roman.
What's the movie? Did you even say what the movie was?
No.
That would be It's a Scream Baby.
It's a Scream Baby.
Yeah, Scream.
The Scream Baby.
Directed by some guy that you never heard of called Wes Craven. Wes Craven, of course, of the wonderful fame of Last House on the Left. And
Not a horror comedy.
Shocker.
No.
Shocker. Now, you know what? Spit on Your Grave, actually, it can be.
It can be. And you know what else can be, to go back to Sam Raimi, is Drag Me to Hell.
Drag Me to Hell is full on camp.
That came out in the 2000s, and
Yes.
we're going to touch on that.
Sorry.
We're on that road. We're on that road.
This podcast has no rules.
We're on 1998.
There's rules, Sydney.
Anyways, this is going to be the rest of the podcast where I'm just going to do my best impression of someone who has a voice modifier.
Of Ghostface.
Yes.
I like to call Ghostface Killer.
You know what? Yeah. You know, he's doing Whiteface. Whiteface is not cool, but doesn't translate well today.
Whiteface?
Yeah,
God, remember when those costumes were everywhere?
Yeah.
Oh, my heavens.
Even before the movie, because that's why they did it. They bought a cheap-ass costume, and they're like, we could make something scary out of this.
And then it was on those commercials, like for Doritos and stuff, or whatever.
And then there
Bud Light.
Then there was the one that like had the blood thing you squirt, and it like bloodied the mask.
It was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
The bloody thing squirt.
The bloody thing squirt.
Yeah. So
that was a Corman film.
Scream really tilted everything on its head, because not only was it a funny film with great lines, great jokes that basically Scary Movie completely ripped off.
That was the point.
Yes.
In fact, the original name for Scream was Scary Movie.
Scary Movie, yes, exactly. But they didn't think that it was a good title, if memory serves me correct. I remember watching a documentary a while back, but I was drunk. Pretty much.
Off Bud Light.
Yeah. What's up? So that film itself was just really opened the gates, or reopened the gates, for the funny horror film. So you have,
and it made horror more self-aware.
Yeah.
And being that, it also created the smart satire, which the 90s was just full of after that.
Late 90s.
Yeah, the late 90s. Yeah, after that.
Yeah. So
you had that Valentine movie, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and all that crap.
And then you had Urban Legends.
I love the Urban Legends movies.
Yeah. Urban Legends, and other films that really spinned off of, basically walk through the door that Scream opened up, or reopened.
Yes.
It
did revitalize horror, though.
Oh, it really did. It really did, because now you have, it was kind of reawoken, and then you have films that were remade, and sequels that were coming back, and reboots, and other fun stuff. It really did open a fun gate, and it's still, the effects are still felt today with filmmaking in terms of horror, because now you have it's now in posh, or it's now okay to be self-aware. It's now okay for characters to say ironic things, like, that dumb white bitch is gonna get it.
Right. Or I'm black, I'm always the first to go. Or I'm a virgin, I'm gonna get killed.
Or I've seen this one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There is a film that I was thinking about doing for the website for writing the streams with Roman, called The Resort. Oh yeah. Yeah. But really not worth it. If that film was meant to, it should have been basically a found footage film, but for some crazy reason they made it an actual 360 type film.
See, I would have been in if it was a found footage film.
Oh yeah, no, it would have made it so much better. But there's a line from one of the guys who dies is, "This is a part of the horror film that pisses me off," as the characters clearly go back to the place that they shouldn't have been, and that leads to their peril. For the most part, or does it? I don't know. Watch it. Trust me,
Nah.
this is much better than the actual film itself. Nothing personal towards the people that make it. I know you bust your ass, and
It looked like a non-Blumhouse movie. Like Blumhouse should have done it, and they didn't.
They passed on
Yeah.
it, which Blumhouse doesn't usually.
No,
but they're like,
no.
"Ooh, this isn't even good enough for us."
Blumhouse made Fantastic Island or Fantasy
Oh,
Island.
my
Fantasy Island.
heavens.
It looked like a Fantasy Island ripoff.
and
But
that was part of from the Roman forums where I mentioned Fantasy Island in terms of from the small screen to the big screen.
Yes.
Shameless plug. You gotta love it.
ooh, I like it.
Yeah, on cinemadnesspodcast.com.
If you're looking for a hot podcast, I've got the one for you. The hottest podcast of the year is The Real Housewives of Reality, starring Scarlett and Allison. This podcast has everything. It's girl meets girl, 2 Bravo-obsessed hosts, a producer named Leon, who knows what love is and is very often screamed at and or abused on the air, allegedly. Weekly recaps of all your favorite housewives, hot gossip, an unadulterated and inexplicable love of Iowa, deals on Mary Kay and BetterHealth.com, relationship advice if you want to stay single forever, and who doesn't. Plus, there's bonus material like the Bravo Booster Pack, which highlights the most iconic Bravo episodes through all the years, and housekeeping with the hottest gossip for you to listen to while you keep your own house, if you do. Hey, tune in. There's so much more. I said what I said.
So as we go through the 2000s, now we are in great prime territory. Scary Movie comes about, and the 80 sequels and the spin-offs.
All the spin-offs.
The Blair Witch Project had 1,000 spin-offs. The Dumb Bitch Project.
The Bear Wench Project.
The Bear Wench Project. You had porn stars getting into it, making jokes of it. And just, you name it, they've done it. And it just made kind of just almost really, really low grade comedy where it wasn't very funny, nor was it scary.
No, and with the problem I have with spoofs, in the majority of the majority of making the spoofs are they spoof a movie, or they spoof a collection of movies. Like Scary Movie 3 was like it was Saw and The Ring and all that put together. But my problem with most spoofs are they are only relevant to the age that they make it. Like they always put in jokes that were funny at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Like the What's Up.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. Or like in Scary Movie 2 where they did the Reebok commercial with the dribbling of the basketball.
Oh yeah.
And people watching it today are like, "What the hell are they doing?"
Right. No one understands that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that started with the Leslie Nielsen stuff after Naked Gun. Like it was a wrongfully accused and that kind of stuff. It was where they did all that kind of stuff, and I just hate that. I hate where parodies became parodies of the age that it happened, where you can't even understand what's going on.
Just playing devil's advocate, we did that in Airplane. I mean, Airplane is
but Airplane wasn't full of that. Airplane had jokes that are still funny today.
It's funny today because we can understand it, but when it's talking about Tupperware parties.
Right, but you can skip over that. It's not a huge segment of the movie. Like the scene in Scary Movie 2 I was talking about was a huge scene where they redid the Reebok commercial, or the first Scary Movie where they did the whole "What's Up" commercial. It's a huge chunk. In Airplane, it was like a passing thing. Yes, the Tupperware party thing happened. It was maybe a minute. And when Ted Stryker comes out, he pushes a pod out of the way from Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
But that's just really quick, and it's not a thing. And you can continue on with the jokes that are timeless. I can see what you're talking about. It's very close to almost pushing that. But as it got into the 2000s, it was like, well, we're running out of ideas, so let's just use what's big right now.
Right. I remember they had Michael Jackson as the little kid from the
From
Others.
The Others,
and he's like, I am your daughter. And so if people watch that now, first of all, they'd probably be like, who is that?
Or look at that pedophile.
Right. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get what you're saying.
And real quick, as we start going into almost the death of the genre for a while, or at least the hibernation of the genre, we had this. I just want to add on. If you remember in Freddy's Dead, they do a spoof of the anti-drug commercial with Spence as he's on the couch, where you have Johnny Depp basically not rephrasing his character from Nightmare on Elm Street 1, but he's Johnny Depp. It says, "This is your brain. This is your brain's on drugs." Well, no kid, my sister-in-laws who are 21 and 24 respectively, they don't know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to pause the film and go, well, you see, this is funny because yes.
Back in my day,
yes,
we compared brains to eggs.
Yeah, and I don't give
looks like it ham and eggs to me.
I don't give Freddy's Dead an exception or exemption from that just because I'm a fan. I totally agree with that. And also, the Power Glove was in that movie.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like, great graphics.
Yes. Be like me. Be like
me.
But
also, you know, he did a 1939 Wizard of Oz joke. And he did a Looney Tunes the Spike cart from the Roadrunner. I mean, it was just a wacky movie that they made just because they wanted to have fun with this last movie. But it's not an excuse. I'm just saying.
Well, even in that film, they started going Remy-esque. In terms of how they're going for, they're really trying to go on the entrails of Sam Raimi, in my opinion.
Ooh, the entrails of Sam Raimi.
Yes, in the entrails.
That should be his biography.
So
the entrails of Sam Raimi.
As we go into the 2000s, there's really nothing gargantuan to really stimulate the horror comedy genre, except for maybe a couple one-offs. In my opinion, like I'm thinking of some foreign films. There's a couple great zombie films that were in there. There was one that was The Sheep of the Dead, or
Shaun of the Dead.
No.
No, Shaun the Sheep.
No, that's claymation, but it's still funny.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where it's basically sheep werewolves.
Yeah, I think it was just called Sheep, wasn't it?
No, like Black Sheep.
I think so.
Black
Possibly.
Sheep.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I found when we had,
Yeah, when I had a roommate that worked at Blockbuster, she would bring all these weird-ass movies.
Oh, yeah, back when it was Blockbuster, and that's basically what I did on my Saturday night, was talk to
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
I heard Blanc.
No, one great thing that did come out in the early 2000s, a lot of people don't know about this movie. No, it was.
This is Posh Hour with Adam.
It was an indie movie. It only came out in like the art house theaters, and then it came out on DVD. I only saw it on DVD. It was The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. Now, this movie is a paired.
I thought you were going to talk about Grabbers, and I was like, no, that's 2012, man. We're not there yet.
No, this came out in 2001.
Okay.
It's a parody of the 1950s monster sci-fi type movie. It was made bad on purpose, but it brings out that.
What's the name of the film?
The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra.
I did not watch that.
It's a fantastic film. It's got cat people in it. It's got a skeleton that you can see the wires moving and it talks, but it doesn't move its mouth. It's unbelievable. It's got It's got aliens like from Plan 9 in it. It's so good, and it's so well done. It's made, like I said, it's made purposely bad on purpose, but the acting and the people in it are just like they go into the movie, and it's just this movie. It's great. It's great.
Well,
I'll lend you a copy.
So, and that leads way to this little English film that basically parodies everything that's awesome about George Romero zombie films, and that's called Shaun of the Dead. And that was just so intelligent, so funny, and it was a fan film that really exploded.
Yeah. In fact, more. I'm just gonna take over this episode.
Pretty much. All right, Allison. Did we valet or okay, cool. All right, bye.
I don't know how I discovered Shaun of the Dead. I didn't see the trailer. I didn't see it anything. I think I was told about it. I think it was by ear. And I was like, okay, I have to see this movie because I really enjoyed the show Spaced, which was Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg's first foray into any type of film. It was a series, and he played, it was basically Shaun. But I heard they made this movie about zombies, and I was really into zombies then, because it was when Land of the Dead came out, and the Dawn of the Dead remake. And I was like, okay, cool. This is really cool. But it was only available in England. So I had the DVD imported. And it was 7 months before it came out. The trailer even came out in America. And I showed it to everyone. I'm like, you have to see this movie. This movie's fantastic. It's rock and roll. It's zombies. It's humor. Yeah. It's oblivious. It's
a cricket bat.
It's the greatest zombie movie I've ever seen in 2004. And
seriously, 2004?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And when it came out in theaters, I still went and saw it because I wanted to support it. But you know, I had already seen it like 20 times, and I just.
And I bet you told everybody that.
I own it.
I didn't have to. I had a small group of people.
He went up to the popcorn and he's like, popcorn.
I've seen this.
I've already seen this movie.
And this is Posh Hour with Adam.
I did the same thing with 28 Days Later, but I regret that decision. So.
I mean, that's not that a core horror comedy, a horror-y.
No, or a good movie.
I have to disagree to a degree.
I know. I'm in the minority about that.
I like the first one better than the second one, but that's not a horror comedy. What was the movie after Shaun of the Dead that they did?
Well,
Hot Fuzz. That was their second best movie.
And again, it was right on the nose because you could tell they're fans of the genre, and they just have so much fun, and it brings Bad Boys 2 to a whole new light. You ain't never seen Bad Boys 2. But as we continue on, now, Shaun of the Dead opens up really kind of the avenue for more spoofs, people that love films, more intelligent films. So that
more self-aware.
Cabin in the Woods eventually is spawned from basically the bones of Shaun of the Dead.
But before that, we have Zombieland.
Zombieland, thank you very much. I would have completely kicked myself when I listened to the podcast going, oh man, I missed Zombieland, son of a bitch. So Zombieland, I mean, what can you say about it in terms of the editing, in terms of just fun from beginning to end?
The opening credits alone, holy crap. It was For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica, and it was that slow motion stuff that we see everywhere now.
As you see the Baywatch esque type film, as you see a very curvaceous gentleman who's running for his life and his hair's flailing and other parts is jiggling circa CJ from Baywatch as he's being, basically caught up by this very burly dude, and you pretty much know the equation as soon as you see it.
It is a gory intro. It's fantastic.
It is beautiful. For Whom the Bell Tolls. Absolutely.
What's weird? What's amazing about this movie is it came out of nowhere.
Oh man, it kicked you in the nuts.
Like you didn't even hear about it. It's just like all of a sudden, oh, here's this movie trailer. Oh, it's out. Oh my God, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen.
You mean you didn't hear about it in Europe and you didn't wait for it in line and show all your friends?
I don't think they thought it was going to do as well as it did.
It was so stylish.
They didn't. They thought it would just be a fun little one-off situation. Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
It was originally going to be a series, and then nobody picked it up. So they're like, "We'll make a movie out of it."
And then somebody picked it up as a series,
and it was bad.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I didn't.
It was
too much.
I only saw the first episode. So I liked it.
I liked the first episode. It agreed with me.
I don't think they made anything past the first episode. I think I got canceled off Amazon.
Oh, I thought they did. I thought they made a couple episodes.
I don't know. But yeah, it just came out of nowhere, and it had some of the best editing, especially with the rules showing up at the right time.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and the Bill Murray cameo, and just so much. Doesn't compare to the Bill Murray cameo in part 2, though.
So you have Zombieland, that's fantastic, and then when you move forward to there, then you see little snippets here and there of horror comedies, self-aware films, things that we've already touched on, spoofs, things like the Wayans brothers were really heavy in, like Meet the Blacks,
But another one, 2010, was Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yes, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. If you haven't seen that, highly, highly recommend it.
Absolutely,
it's so
brilliant.
Awesome. It's two rednecks.
It's a reverse horror movie.
It is, because it's misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Have you ever, Allison? Have you ever?
I have. I've watched it once. I'm one of the minorities that I don't care for that movie.
Oh my God. Just the idea of a slasher happening by accident every time is just brilliant.
Now, before Tucker and Dale, I believe one of my favorite.
Yep, your absolute favorite.
Yeah, which I touched on this in From the Roman Vault, Behind the Mask.
Yeah. I have the action figure on my wall
all the time.
Oh yes, pretty much.
The Legend of Leslie Vernon.
Yeah, Tucker and Dale
versus
so it's two rednecks basically who are just having a sabbatical, getting away, being boys, and then they kind of Forrest Gump their way through a horror movie where they're seen as the villains, the crazy stereotypical rednecks that you see in films
by stereotypical college kids.
Yeah, and to the point where Dale has a thing for the female lead, who's your stereotypical survivor girl, and when he sees her, he stutters. So of course he does the stereotypical redneck, where if you didn't know what was going on, it's very villainous, it's very creepy, and it's just completely intelligent and on the nose, very smart.
Well, it's Alan Tudyk. I mean, he does amazing voice work anyway, and he's got an expressive face. I mean, and
he has a name that was meant for porn.
And I mean, even today when he's on Resident Alien on the Sci-Fi Channel, he just owns the role. He owns every role that he does.
He's great in Doom Patrol.
Yes.
So as
and of course Firefly.
It wouldn't be an episode if Adam didn't bring up Firefly at least once. There you go.
I'm not a big Firefly fan.
No? Okay. Then maybe I'm thinking of another guy who's, a good friend of mine who I do a podcast with.
I'm actually one of those people that's like, okay, Firefly's over.
Man,
get over it.
Those people will not let that show go.
Oh my
God. It's like Xena the Warrior Princess.
Sorry to all of our Firefly lover episodes.
We just
lost 60 of our 64 followers.
Exactly. Come on back. We'll do an episode of Promise.
I mean, I love me some Nathan Fillion, just like my mom. But yeah, it's over. It's just done.
Sorry.
They're still making comic books for it. Go read the comics. They're still making comic books for it. Go read the comics.
Go read the comics.
Judy, read the comic. Just stop it, Judy.
I'm reading here.
So the 2010s comes around, and then yet again, still self-aware films, and leads me real quick. We're going to just skip to a film that I've been dying to talk about, which was brought to us by one of our guests in one of our episodes, Jason. A movie called Final Girls.
Oh, okay. I was not thinking of that, but
okay. Well, we don't have to go into Final Girls. Well, I tell you what.
No, you brought it up. We're gonna go over fucking Final Girls.
So, Allison, you love Final Girls. So why don't you go ahead and talk about it?
You're a Final Girl.
Why don't you go ahead and just? This is your moment to shine. This is your moment. Your one shining.
You know what's funny is I've only seen.
I was going Jekyll and Hyde.
So was I.
They didn't say shining moment.
Oh,
okay.
I've only seen Final Girls once.
Really?
Yeah.
Right here.
Wow. I've watched that thing 12 times.
Don't tell Jason.
12 times, 14 times. I've watched it. I watch it over again. Sometimes when I'm writing and I'm in a funk and I'm like, let me put on Final Girls and steal some jokes.
Well, I don't write, so I don't just turn on movies just for the heck of it.
Oh,
and you don't do that anyway.
I don't do that because that would be copyright.
What?
Nothing. Love you guys.
I don't understand what's happening. No, I just
you don't rewatch movies.
I over the last few years I just don't rewatch movies again. If it's on, I might watch it, but I have so many new movies I need to watch or introduce myself to. But I did watch it and I really, really enjoyed it, and I didn't understand why I hadn't heard of it before, Jason. I don't know if it ever came into the theater. I mean, you just didn't hear of this movie. Even though it's got Malin Ackerman.
I don't know. There's some heavy breathing going on right now.
It's got her, and it's got Vera Farmiga's daughter. I don't know what her name is.
I don't know anybody in that movie.
Sorry.
Well, no, you have the one woman who played...
that movie has... Oh, that person.
Yeah, she was in Watchmen. She was also in the...
Are you talking about the main girl? The mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, Malin Ackerman. She was in Heartbreak Kid with Ben Stiller as well. I love that movie. Anyways, so the movie is basically
I can't think of a stingray singing the same way. Thank you to Heartbreak Kid.
I just like it because it has mariachis playing all the time. So, it was just funny. Chorizo. It was just making fun of again, the stereotypical people, the virgin, you're supposed to sacrifice the virgin, the African American person, and then, there's always the final girl, like the Heather Langenkamp.
Yep. It was kind of it kind of had the cabin in the woods.
It did
flow to it,
but
aside
it also,
from the sci-fi parts.
Right, but it also had some scary moments,
yes.
and it was also touching. It was a story between about a mother and a daughter. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to spoil anything because you can't really do that. And the opening scene is just crazy.
Oh, the opening scene is fantastic.
And yeah, it was just a good movie and a good use of Bette Davis eyes.
It is. It's the thing that makes Final Girl stands out to me is the heart of that film.
The literally beating.
Yes, it does. Okay, that was really riveting, and we'll go ahead and continue this in the next episode as we continue on our journey talking about comedic horror or horrorities.
So stay tuned. Follow us on our social media to make sure you know when the next episode comes out. Go to cinemadnesspodcast.com, and you can find all of our information that way. You can even find this show there. So
please tune in. Thank you very much for listening, Leonard.